Hi, my name is James. 15 years ago, I painted the blood of the lamb on my door. A few months ago, though, something started to happen. I started to feel nervous or unease. Creation seemed to be groaning. Something wicked this way comes was what I felt. And I felt like I wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready. And I felt that's what the Lord was telling me. I sort of felt like I did when the Lord first started calling me many years ago. I'd heard His voice often. Normally when I heard the Lord's voice, it scared me or I didn't like the message. And I'd go to a teacher who could tickle my ear and give me a softer, more palatable version to where I felt at ease. But I wasn't able to do that with what the Lord was telling me. I didn't really want to make this video. I didn't want to do this testimony. I've got a lot of enemies out there who could use this to hammer me. But the Lord has told me to do it, to warn and to testify for what He's done to me, and I'm going to be obedient. So here goes. I was born on the 25th of December at a military base in Alaska that I guess is the sister base of HARP. The 25th, most people would think was a great day, Christ's birthday. That's not the case. It's actually the feast day of Mithras. My first waking memory is of Satan. I must have been about a year old. I've never forgotten it. It scared me so bad. I remember walking into a hallway and having the hallway being blocked by, even at 12 months old, I knew it was the devil, or a very bad demon nonetheless. I've never forgotten it, and it scared the crap out of me, but for some reason I was the devil almost every single year for Halloween my whole life. My birth father left at 2. My grandfather was a huge influence on me because of that. He was a very powerful man in the Portland, Oregon area. Everybody knew who he was, and I came to learn later on that he was at the very least a 32nd degree Mason, but I'd imagine maybe higher. I was adopted my mom remarried a really, really great guy. I was adopted into an awesome Jesuit Catholic family. I was raised in Catholic schools. I was an altar boy, confirmed, did the whole thing. And I'd have to say, by all means, I was raised well. I was raised with the elite of Portland, up in the hills. I was treated well. I loved my parents. I loved my adopted family. But I never fit in. I never really fit, never felt really accepted. I had an awkward childhood. I guess you'd have to say I was unconfident and sort of socially retarded. My teen years should have been good. I was a 4.0 student. I was a star athlete, and even though you might not be able to tell now, I was a really good-looking kid. But once again, I didn't fit. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel good. At some point in my freshman year, my parents went to Hawaii and left me with a 25-year-old babysitter. The babysitter was a partier, and she allowed me and a friend to party every night. The second night that she was there, I remember being down in my basement, drunk, stoned, listening to the song Baba O'Reilly by The Who. And I made an agreement with the enemy to commit suicide with drugs and alcohol. I'm not really sure why I made the agreement. I never really thought about that until recently. My side of the deal apparently was to get women and acceptance. Payoff was immediate. Very next night, while playing quarters and drinking with my babysitter, we got so drunk that she de-virginized me. And the night after that, 2 girls from a local high school came over, and that pretty much just started a non-stop train the rest of my life of women and partying. I lived the insane life. I partied always, everywhere, all the time. School, morning, breakfast, lunch, all the time. I lived, my theme was that I lived life as if on a tightrope. I tried to do the craziest possible thing at all given times. I dated some nice girls, and I specifically remember I dated some witches. That's a theme that sort of repeated itself throughout my life. Witches, for some reason, even up until my 30s, were always attracted to me. I did get my popularity, but I was still unhappy. One night in particular I remember was in my junior year of high school. I had been partying, I came home, and for about the next 8 hours I was attacked by what I thought was the devil. It could have just been a demon, I'm not sure, but he was a big bad one. He screamed at me for hours that I was his, I would never get away from him. He mocked me and he laughed at me. It was horrifying. I felt like I was being raped. I couldn't get it to stop. I was scared. It was horrible. All I remember is I think at some point I yelled out to the Lord to save me and let me sleep. And I did. I fell asleep. With 2 weeks left in my senior year of high school, I was kicked out of school. Basically what happened is I had gotten ripped off on a Coke deal. And to pay the guy back, I used my locker key that I had to all of the lockers to steal his credit card. The credit card, I took the credit card and went to the store to buy a Walkman, and then I unfortunately found out that he had also stolen the credit card, and I got arrested. Therefore, the school found out that I was one of the recipients of the yearly handed down locker key, and they put 2 and 2 together with some thefts that had happened in other people's lockers, and they asked me to leave. Because of my good grades, I didn't really get kicked out. They let me withdraw so that I could go to another school and still get into college. And that was definitely my plan at the point, but at that point, I took a part-time job selling vacuum cleaners, and it really worked for me. I just happened to get in under probably one of the best sales trainers in the country. I mean, the guy had to be a warlock. He was, and never in my life have I met a more powerful manipulator. The guy was 6'7", and he could convince anybody to do whatever he wanted them to do. And at that age of my life, that was an attractive power, and he taught us all how to do it very well. I mean, I practiced this like witchcraft. I visualized what I wanted every day. Like a mantra over and over again. I will be a millionaire. I will be a millionaire. I will succeed. I will succeed. It is witchcraft. I chanted. I practiced. I created my own reality, and he taught us how to do that. By 20, I was already a distributor in this company. Very successful. By 20 years old, I had already made $40,000 in 1 month. That was just 1 month. I had probably 20 sales reps underneath of me. I had an awesome house up in Seattle. I had a lot of cars, and I just bought a brand new Audi. I had recognition. I mean, people in the business, at least, from my age group, practically worshipped me. I had really reached the pinnacle and achieved everything that I told myself I wanted to achieve in life. And then I was stuck with what next? What do I do now? And it was at that point that I feel like I felt the call of God. I don't even know how really to explain it, but I wasn't happy with where I was, and I felt to get an urge to explore spiritually. I tried different things. I looked into different religions, and then a friend took me to the Billy Graham crusade. And while I didn't go up and make an altar call, I definitely was intrigued. And I went home, and I started reading my Bible. And I loved it. I saw a lot of wisdom in it. And that's what I was really intrigued at the time, was the wisdom. But then one night, I was reading about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and it just struck me that he was crying, and he was sweating blood, that he was so afraid to die, or maybe not afraid to die, but he didn't want to die, but that he did it for us. And the significance hit me, and I hit the floor in tears and pleaded fealty for the rest of my life at that point. I mean, at first things were awesome. I threw out the porn, I got baptized in my bathtub, I was going to do whatever God wanted me to do. I was driving my friends crazy. They didn't know how to take it. And like I said, everything was going great. I mean, I didn't know anything, I just winged it. And then I met God's people, and that changed. I mean, obviously with my background, I didn't fit in really well with the Baptist community or any church community, to be honest with you. They were good people who tried really hard to understand me. But suffice it to say that even after many years, 10, 15 years, 10 years in that church, I never fit in. I mean, it was a good church, but the rich Masons were elders, and they were tame and orderly, and that was what was preached, being a tame and orderly Christianity. I became really successful about that point in multi-level marketing, and I met a girl through that, a single mom, a Pentecostal girl. I didn't speak in tongues, and there was some major problems there. We entered into a covenant agreement anyway, and many years of disaster ensued. I mean, I could easily fill a book with the trials that I went through with this relationship. I mean, her family was insane. So was I. So we were even. They were what they would call full gospel, and I remember how much that phrase used to irritate me, like everyone else only was using part of it. They loved to point out, how I didn't speak in tongues, and that I had to learn how to speak in tongues, and to me, they were a resounding gong. A lot of talk about tongues, but not a whole lot of love. We had a child together, and that was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I loved my daughter more than life itself. But her family hated me, and through the only thing I can describe as vile witchcraft, they convinced my ex eventually to leave me. I mean, there's not even enough time in this video to do this story justice. I mean, it's so bizarre that even what I've talked about before this sounds tame. I mean, they immediately would not let me see my daughter. I didn't even hear from her for months. And the amount of persecution these people put me through was unreal. Falsely arrested time and time again. One after another, they would march up, those tongue speakers, and lie to a judge about me. They called, literally, and I'm not even kidding, she called every single police agency in the entire state to file false charges against me. Lies so fantastic that a lot of it stuck. You throw enough mud against the wall, some of it sticks. My faith, it was 3 years of hell, but my faith exploded in the desperation of it all. I just took off with the Lord, and somehow, unbelievably, I won custody of my daughter. And for some unexplainable reason, I backslid right then.